Mark Star when he comes.
Okay, we're ready for December 12th. Park and Rec meeting, and first on the agenda is Lisa. Audience citizens.
So, third time here. We just requested to do the Man to Man road race for ALS again.
Yep.
Can you tell us last year how many people you had, what you guys did?
Last year we had an amazing video. Hold on, that's my niece, that's Dan's daughter, that's fine. She mows up here, so. What?
On year.
Last year we had about, I wanna say at least 120 people.
Okay,
We raised $10,000.
that's awesome.
We raised even more than $10,000 because I had to pay for the t-shirts, the race guide, and everything else, so after it's all said and done, we came.
And you had no issues with parking or
When I say that, it's so awesome.
no issues with parking, no issue with dogs in the park, people on the trails, nobody gave you a hard time?
We had people just driving up and putting money in a jar. It's awesome. That didn't even.
Did the cops ever contact you for having a cop? Okay. Interesting.
I don't fire a couple of them. I just made a quick tonight, but we just got a new race time on guy. They're gonna take care of the bids, coordinate everything for me. For like $1,000.
And you're not selling any food or anything on site?
I'll get donations from students, probably at the end.
And you just give those away?
Snaps. I'm hoping to get better sponsors like Eversource. I'm gonna try to hit up. I'm trying to hit even vendors that I work with that will to get more. Every time and even the hospital presents special.
Did you charge last year for a fee?
Last year we charged $25.
Good job. Yeah, great job.
I'm hoping this will be a lot more. They're great help with the girls that they want. They're the money.
Awesome.
That's what I got.
Questions? At least I think we're set. We'll vote on it later
I'll
on.
shoot you an email
Check,
tomorrow.
let you know tomorrow, unless you want to stick around. You're welcome to do that as well.
I'll go home. And I'm all there.
Thank you. There's Christmas.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Okay, and Luke's on? Yep.
I am.
Thank you for joining us. Luke McCoy from KBA. And the attachment, well, the handout that we have. So Jen asked me to just send a couple of, questions. Obviously, there can be more. So maybe we can do some give and take, Luke.
So his presentation, it should answer your questions.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
And then if
And
we
then afterwards, any other comments? That would be helpful. That would be great. Okay. Okay, Luke, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. Hopefully this is sharing for everyone, but
Yeah.
I know you all also have it in front of you. So just to start very quickly, recap from the presentation we did to town council. We looked at a number of different options for the park, and I'll just kind of run through the list and then talk a little bit about what the outcome from that meeting was and what we've done since then. So the first was we looked at the tennis courts and converting those to pickleball courts. We also looked at the implementation or installation of a new playground playscape in the grass area and here between the pool and the tennis courts. And then we looked at various options for the pool house itself and the two pools that are there. So renovating the existing pool house, the wading pool, we looked at either renovating that or replacing it with a small splash pad. The large pool, we looked at renovating, replacing the pool, or converting that to a splash pad. Based on the conversation with council, really the direction was based on those was continue looking at the tennis court, pickleball court, 2 pickleball courts, The playscape and park improvements, those two, although that was kind of looking at a separate phasing, the overall project. And then we were asked to do a little bit more looking at the pool house, renovating it to reduce the overall size to accommodate just the bathrooms, if it were to be a splash pad instead of a pool, for that. And then also compare that with what would it cost to build a new pool house just to house bathrooms and the necessary equipment and storage for a splash pad. With regards to the two pools, it was asked to look at converting that area to a larger overall splash pad and actually demolishing and removing both of the pools. And then the last piece was potentially some additional parking for the facility if it were to get more use than it does now. So won't take too much time on these because these were the same as what was presented at Town Council. Just for this group was the existing tennis courts were found, in our opinion, to be at the end of their life and needing a replacement. So they would be renovated, and this proposed scheme was to convert them to pickleball courts. And you can see here, you can comfortably fit 4 courts within the footprint of the existing tennis courts. So new surfacing, line painting, fencing, netting, and then also adding an accessible access from that parking lot that was not there previously. The next was looking at the idea of a playscape and kind of park in between the two. So we looked at putting a 2 structures. One would be age appropriate for ages 2 to 5. The second larger structure would be 5 to 12. And then also incorporating some sort of a shade structure with safety surfacing underneath, and then tying that back again with an accessible access for those that come and park there. And fitting that in that grassed area between the existing pool and the tennis courts for there. So really a lot of the work since that meeting was focused on the pool house and what could be done with that rather than just renovating it in kind. So we did go back, we looked at how the building might be modified to fit it for just bathrooms, the pump requirements for splash pads and some storage. Due to the age and the nature of the building, it's kind of tough to renovate that type. It's CMU block. There's already been some shifting of the walls inside with that, but we were able to work with our estimators and kind of what that may look like for trying to renovate it. And it was around $1.1 to $1.2 million. And I will say that there's a big asterisk at the end of that because anytime you renovate an existing building, there are unforeseen conditions. So that number could go up potentially if we were to go into a further investigation of opening up some walls and looking at things like that for that building. The second thing that we were asked to look at was, instead of renovating, would it be more cost effective to construct anew? So we looked at a plan which would be a new building, and it would house, as you can see here, 4 what we call family style bathrooms, which would have the individual shower install so that a family could go in. It would have 4 of those in the center with a covered vestibule over. To the left would be mechanical room for all the splash pad equipment. And then to the right would be another small storage closet, which would be able to house any of the facility maintenance equipment or other things that need to go in there. It could be storage for anything else that you needed, but you may want separate from the splash pad mechanical room. Looking at that with a new building, you're roughly in that same price range, around 1.1 to 1.2 million. Difference here is that with new construction, you should be less likely to have unforeseen conditions once you get out of the ground with the demolition of the old. So there's less concern of that number. Could be questionable once you get into construction with that.
Can we ask questions now, or do you have to wait?
Sure, it's up to you, however you'd like to. I'm happy
Yeah, I'd
to
like
do
to
it.
ask a question. So, how does the 1.1, 1.2 on a replacement, how does that include, that includes demolition and removal?
So that it does, it includes the demolition of the existing building, which is not, it's about I want to say it was about 2,000 square feet or a little bit above, so it's not a extremely large building to demo. And then it was constructing a new similar type CMU. It is only seasonal building, so it does not require all of the heating as you would have in a building that's used all through the year, but it's also a smaller building in this case. So the larger existing building would be demoed. This would be a smaller building housing the 4 restrooms and the 2 storage.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when we met last meeting, on the existing building, you talked about the fact that you do some work to reduce that cost, right? So,
Correct.
but that's with them doing the work, right? So we haven't figured out that 1.1 to 1.250 on the existing building, what it would cost, what reduction would come off that price based off town doing it.
Right, but I think if they're gonna go in there and demo it, they're just gonna go in there with an excavator and knock it all down. So
Yeah, no, I'm talking about if the
Oh,
company,
yeah.
whoever's making a decision decides to stay with the current building.
Yep.
And renovate.
I think Luke's point on trying to demo the existing building is the fact that they might find a wall that is shifted too far that the building is no longer repairable.
Right, understand.
So I think structurally, that's why, I think he's saying let's go in with the new building is more cost effective.
At that price, and if it includes demolition, it sounds like a no-brainer.
Right.
Luke, am I wrong in any way there?
No, you're correct. You know, and one of the things with the existing building that we found when looking at it, especially trying to make it work for this type of a use, is that really we found that the entire slab in there would have to be taken up in order to run the new plumbing and other things like that within the building. It's not a very big building, so there's not a whole economy of scale. It already has some issues with some settling within it, which causes some trip hazards and doesn't meet ADA code too. So, you know, that's a pretty big cost when renovating, when you're starting right off the bat of taking the floor slab up to run new and to fix some of those issues within it and then build from there. Plus the roof we talked about last time is at the end of its life already. So renovating, we already know the top and bottom, you know, basically have to be replaced and then renovate everything in the
How
middle.
much of that 1,000,001 to 1,000,002 approximately is demolition?
The look I fit here, but I want to say it was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. The demolition was, they're saying. With an asterisk on the abatement, but around 150,000.
That's it.
And that's, yeah, everything we've priced is prevailing wage, obviously, you know, not town forces or whatnot there, so. Mhm.
And the same, the current building is concrete, cement?
Yep.
This is the same, concrete, cement? Whatever.
That's what we've looked at initially, as, you know, CMU block again. It's very standard in New England construction type, especially for these seasonal type buildings, rather than stick frame type.
Yeah, I think one of the things you might hear from the council, they'll definitely want, how much is the demolition piece of this, because Charlie gets into this stuff. He's gonna ask you, well, can't this just be a very simple building built? You know, might be a little surprised at the cost, and I don't need the answer now, I'm not sure you have it now, but, you know, be able to answer that for him. Because he'll push back on the building construction.
He's gonna ask for steel building. That's what he brought up a couple times at the council meeting, around the other buildings that would be considered toxic, but still.
Yeah, even, you know, very simple, like just, you know, something. You know, when they were looking at an indoor pool, they thought they could put an indoor
Right.
pool and it would be very simple. They realized they can't do that, but, you know, just point that out. That's probably what you're gonna go, so.
So look, another question on this diagram versus the actual picture before. Because I'm not familiar inside the building, is there storage and some kind of mechanical room in the existing building today?
Correct, the mechanical room, as you're looking at the building all the way to the far left,
Yeah.
is the mechanicals and everything is in there. And then just outside both of the bathrooms, there's two large changing areas with a bunch of cubbies.
Okay.
Where the showers are currently located now, the women's and the girls' bathrooms.
And the center of the building is where the staff, that's the
Yeah, I
staff
knew what the
office.
center was, I just didn't know the other side. It's horrible. Yeah,
That's a good one.
so square footage wise, it remains about the same that you have today, so. Or does it shrink at all?
It does shrink a little bit. Yeah, it does shrink a bit, because we're able to have a little bit more efficiency within it. One thing that, you know, with the layout here is you have some internal hallways and things that are there. By the way, we've designed it, the four have a vestibule kind of over the top, so you're not, lack of better terms, paying for corridors you don't use within.
Okay, thank you,
A little bit smaller.
all right, thank you.
Okay,
All right, so. Talked about that, and then the other was looking at taking both pools and demolishing both of them and then creating a splash pad. So we looked at based on the overall area and kind of the area that was there, plus, you know, if you do move forward with the other phases, and looking at about 1,000 to 1,200 square foot splash pad, which is fairly similar in size to some of the other ones that are out there, and kind of refining that number to be around $2.5 to $3 million. That's going to depend on the overall equipment, the overall size. That's kind of ultimately decided upon. But there originally, when we had presented this, we looked at converting just the wading pool to a splash pad and then the main pool. So it was a little bit more expensive, but if both of those are going away and it becomes kind of one larger splash pad instead of two individual, there's a little bit more of an economy there with that.
You say demolish the pool, are you just gonna fill it in or what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so that would be, so under this, and based on the feedback we received was that it would be demolished, so all of the materials that are in, you know, the metal walls, coping, plumbing would be excavated out, the concrete patio that's around it. We, during the assessment, noted that should be replaced anyway because it has a lot of heaving and there's toe grabbers, as we call them, all over that. So that would be demolished, and then fill would be brought in, that's suitable structural fill that we could fill the pool in to a new base. New plumbing would be run for the splash pad and everything that would be needed with footings for those, and then a new pad poured for the base.
Any issues with environmental concerns?
Not that we have heard, and I spoke with our consultant on this, Weston and Sampson, who's the aquatics, more of an expert than even we are. A little bit about it, it would be recirculating, so the water would be captured, reused. That's why there is a filtration and pump system. We've allocated for that within the building as well.
I'm sorry, so it includes the pump system,
Yes, yep.
recirculating, and
Mhm.
that's one thing that I know would be up in the air, whether or not we just drain off the water. Steve, I don't know if that's.
Yeah, Luke, I thought if we decided to recirculate the water and reuse the water, we would have to have the water tested and have somebody on site at all times, compared to going with the gray water where we just let the water flow into the sanitary sewer.
I will have to confirm with them. I'm not familiar that someone has to be on all the time. I do know that their indication was that it can get very expensive if it's all new water being used all the time instead of a pump and a storage tank system to operate it. So we can certainly have a call with them and get more clarification for you.
Maybe you could present the two options to the council, or just
Mhm.
present the one, Steve, that you think is the better one, which, again, we don't wanna have to have staff involved in testing. We didn't wanna have to recirculate the water and have storage tanks, I believe. Right?
Well, the most common for the communities that we found is that is how they're done. They have tanks, they're recirculated, it's filtered rather than new water. Because of this mere cost of constantly running with new water that then is just
Right.
runs off site. So,
Right. I
so
think
yeah,
there's-
let's have a call, Steve, with them and confirm with them. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I don't know, Jen, if you want to touch on, or you want me to just briefly, just some comparison of some splash pads in size.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I had a spreadsheet and I didn't print it. But between Luke and I, we have quite a few numbers. I know I finally was not hearing back from anyone at Camp Sloper, so I called the CEO of Southington YMCA today and he got right back to me. Theirs is 3,700. Middletown's is 2,140. Steve went out and measured Cromwell. I think that was 2,100.
Yeah.
Or 1,900.
Yeah.
What's Cromwell?
Cromwell, that's Rogers Park.
It's not big compared to Middletown. Middletown is huge.
Yeah, and we had varying numbers for Middletown. The director told me 1,800. And then the article I read said 3,500. And then Luke, you got your number from the actual architect, right?
Yes, yeah, I spoke with the
I figured
engineer.
That's the most accurate, because he's the one that built it.
Cromwell looks so much smaller.
Chelsea Park, I haven't been able to get in touch with anyone, but according to an article I read, theirs is 4,900, I think. Luke, you had sent you checked out Colchester. I have a spreadsheet. I'll forward the spreadsheet
Okay.
tomorrow. I'm sorry, I just didn't print it, but I know,
Just-
I know Middletown and Sloper were the two you really wanted to know about.
Well,
We have Colchester, we have Bloomfield.
Middletown with their
Bristol.
equipment is the Taj Mahal. We will not be able to get a Taj Mahal in this town for a splash pad. So if these numbers, because they are very different than what was presented to the council, I can see. If
What
that's
numbers?
1,000 to 1,250 square feet, 2.5 million to 3 million. That is, extremely high. And I say that's 1,250, if you tell me Middletown's 1,900. If you go to Middletown, just. look at-
Middletown's 2,140.
Oh, Middletown, I'm sorry, I said Middletown, Cromwell, 1,900. And so this would be, 75% of Middletown?
But Cromwell also has a lot of wasted space with the oval of the concrete, where there's not elements on the side, the elements are more secluded inside.
Center.
So if you measured where the elements are, I would imagine if you guys would shrink that.
Yeah.
But just
Maybe
measure
that's-
this
If you're measuring, like, if you, I got
Part of-
a diagram from Camp Sloper, and it's like 4,200, but the square foot area is the 3,700. So they lost 500 square feet because they have a walkway around it. So I think, although Cromwell, we measured, Steve measured
Gotcha,
everything,
gotcha.
I think it's really
That
much
would make
smaller.
sense. So it's
Yeah.
a spray area. So in
Yeah.
this case, I mean, you're generalizing, I realize this is just a range, but you're probably talking about spray area. The 1,000 to
Yes.
1,250.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you call, as I'm learning, as I'm calling the departments, they're telling me the square footage of the whole thing. I really have to get in touch. I'm asking who the architect was,
Yeah,
because they're the ones that are really giving me that concrete number of
Yeah,
the spray area.
yeah.
I mean, New Britain, I should have printed it. Camp Sloper, sent me their actual diagram. And at the top of the diagram, it says total square foot and it says spray square foot,
and Sloper just went in the
last 2 years.
yeah, so I'm wondering what the cost was. That would be helpful just to support Luke's, because when they
Yeah.
say that number.
They did theirs with a big project.
Yeah, But,
Yeah, we can certainly look into finding that. And again, you know, this project is a little unique as you do have the demolition and the site filling of the existing pools prior to starting construction of the new, but yep. So,
right, and knowing that this includes, do you know what the demolition? You know, the fill-in for the two pools, that area, the decking, how much of that cost that you have is for that?
I do have it, I don't have it in front of me right now.
Okay. I would put it included in your presentation, you know, fill in, decking, and again, it's a rough number, I realize that. And then the splash pad itself,
Okay,
how much is that? Because, you know, just say that we put in a splash pad of 1,250 square feet, and based on these numbers of other towns, that's gonna be smaller. I'll tell you though, Middletown is big, and again, splashier, the way it's spread out probably. But 1,250. Talking 3 million, and then you need bathrooms. And you're talking about.
Oh, I got the
So it's
spreadsheet.
a $4 million project just for the splash pad. And pool. We're also concerned about parking. There's 21 spaces in that area.
Yeah, that's why, as council asked, he gave an
Yeah.
update on parking too.
So,
I did get some of the others. West Hartford, Wolcott Park is 1,800. Woodruff Street in Southington, that's the small one in Southington, that's 575. The recreational complex in Colchester where Luke lives is 1,100. Portland is 1,600. Plainville is 1,000. Highland Park in Hartford is 1,350. Rockwell Park in Bristol is 4,200, but that's also part of a playground. I think they included everything. Again, I'd have to reach out to the actual architect.
and then
So,
Luke, I believe you, if I remember, you live around Colchester. Colchester put theirs in recently?
no, Colchester renovated theirs recently, but I also did reach out based on the information as Jen had mentioned to confirm, but I do think that 1,100 is the total area, not the actual splash area, because it's not very big.
I'm just
there.
wondering what their cost was, but it was a couple
Yeah,
of years ago. so-
Theirs is no, they just renovated it with some ARPA money. They replaced some pieces of the pump system, but they've had theirs for I think close to 10 years. Yeah. So that's our update of kind of everything. And then the last piece Jen did note is that we did start studying, kind of looking at the area where there's currently swings and sloped area of potentially that would be the area where additional parking could be. That parking lot could be made to form kind of an L and take that area, that number. Depends on how many parking spaces, the more that we push towards that swing set area, we do have a slope and would have to add retaining walls there to make it work. So that's why you see kind of that delta there. It really would come down to overall, how many spaces are you trying to fit in the park to further refine that. So that's kind of our update since the council meeting and where we've been since then.
Questions?
Thank you.
No problem.
Comments? No?
So basically, if you only did the new pool house, the changing room, and did the splash pad, it's like between 3 and 4.5 million.
Yes, roughly, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Okay, so again, I know Steve and Jen will follow up, but do you have a date yet for a presentation to the council?
no, we're waiting for this meeting to happen
Okay.
ultimately tomorrow.
So my suggestion is that you put a little more detail on the numbers, how you get to the total for the ranges, demolition, fill in, whatever. For the splash pad, I assume it's a concrete pad, not the padding, because that was brought up in the last meeting. That it would be concrete would be cheaper, so that's what you went with. I don't, but I would put that in there, what it is. And then on the water.
Yeah,
I
the
think
water's
we
used for
gotta
Luke and I
fine
will
tune
touch
that
base.
and make sure that we're all talking the same.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
Great.
One quick question. So if it's just cement, so what would be the difference in the cost between the cement and the rubberized surfaces I've seen in some of these? Are they all cement?
The majority of them are cement, for the cost reason that poured in place, rubberized surfacing. I'd have to look now what it's going for, but, last I looked, I think it's well over $20 a square foot. Just the material costs, so it adds a lot, and then there's maintenance that, and Steve, you know from your playgrounds, you know that
Yep.
constantly has maintenance to maintain it.
And like Tony's figuring out, impossible to find somebody to come in and fix small sections. We're at a
Yes.
very astronomical price.
Mhm.
All right.
All
Okay.
right.
Luke,
Thank you.
for joining us. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
You as
And,
well.
We'll touch base.
Talk to you
All
soon.
right.
I know.
Thank
you. Bye.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Can I have a motion for those that were there?
I'll make,
You were there, so.
I'll make a motion that we accept last minute meeting. Last
Second.
meeting.
Don seconds. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
All opposed? Abstaining? Thank you.
Yeah.
For the record.
Okay, consent agenda, we need to make a change to the May
Yeah, just a
17,
date.
2025, okay?
So whoever makes that motion. just
So-
do that.
Just make the motion.
I'll make a motion to
25.
accept, the approval from Lisa DeSanto on the ALS Alliance. With the, the fact that we have to change the date from May 17, 2024 to May 17, 2025.
Okay, Luke seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Before we move on from that,
Yes.
she's done this 3 years. It is obviously getting bigger. If I talk to her next year and the numbers from 2024 do not drastically change from 2025, do you still need her to come back? But if all of a sudden she does say, hey, we went from 120 to 200, then maybe we have her back to talk about things, but if it stays the same, you guys are okay if I just.
And as long as you're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure before I said don't come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And as the event is growing, we'll add some more additional garbage cans, stuff in the parking lot area, so it doesn't add any cost. Per event, take away from the charity.
That was great that next time. All right, Debbie.
We have my report, open for questions.
Yeah, I just have one.
Sure.
And I didn't want to go back and talk about it in minutes. But we talked last meeting about the fact that you adding that line item, that expense that we talked about.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it in the minutes, nor did I see it on your report. Did you do that?
That was 2 meetings ago, wasn't it?
That was 2 meetings ago and our budget was submitted,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I put the numbers in that you,
I apologize.
that you-
No, it was last meeting.
I actually was gonna put in a different number, and then I went back to the minutes and put in exactly what you had
Thank
recommended.
you. I'm
Yep.
sorry I missed that.
That's okay.
That was it. Other than that, I.
So if it's wrong,
What's that?
if the number's wrong,
Yeah. Sorry.
hopefully we can pull it. Yeah. All right. Glad you put in another person.
Long time coming.
If
I hope
there's,
the town recognizes that.
so can I ask a question on that? I know that we have some part-time things in our budget. The part-time person that we had to
No,
put the
I-
full-time,
No.
so we kept that part-time
Because there's
position.
no guarantee of getting, all I did was recommend this, I couldn't even put it into the budget, the town manager has to actually put it into.
Right, but but there's a first column saying department request, you put it in that one.
No, I didn't, I
No.
have to, they don't let us do that.
It's
I had
an
to send a
additional
letter.
form we do before the
I had to
budget.
send them a
they-
letter that said I want to do it, I was not, we were told not to put the money into our budget.
Okay.
Position.
The town manager will review all the additional personnel requests and decide what he wants to put in the budget. And then between HR, town manager and finance, they'll determine the salary and put it in.
Okay.
If we had put it in the budget and didn't get it and used the part-time money to pay for it, we would have lost that part-time money forever.
Right, but you'll have a discussion, I assume, with the town, we have a new town manager in January.
I'm not sure how it's gonna.
We'll
work.
have a discussion. The thing is, there's no doubt you need a full-time person.
Mhm.
What I don't wanna cloud up your budget with is, you never even spent money on your part-time person that you had. You know, so that's okay. Give us the full-time, we'll take out the part-time. That's the
Yeah, I
kind
mean,
of
I
discussion
have
that you
no
gotta have.
idea what's gonna happen with the new TM because
Right,
I know Lee's
realize
looking
that,
through
but
stuff and then I'm sure Ryan will sit. I'm
Debbie's gonna
hoping,
be, she tells us all the time, she'll be retiring in a few years, so,
4.5 years.
okay, so. There's no doubt.
It's a reality, so.
my hope is that Ryan being new will sit down with all department heads about budgets like it used to be done. It used to be every department head
Right,
sat down with
right.
town manager and they stopped that. Now it's only the departments that they have questions about, they sit down with.
It's a real shame, because none of that information gets to the Board of Finance, and even, not saying that they might not listen, who knows? I listened to this last meeting that they had, which was mostly on the VNA, that's outside our realm, but it was pretty interesting, so. So if it's appropriate, I would be glad, I don't wanna overwhelm the new manager, but at the appropriate time, I'll introduce myself and I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna tell them. That may not do anything. Okay,
Another question?
Yeah.
And it's a great one. 187, you know, is that increase because of population in the town or something with grade levels or just
For the,
for the basketball?
I'm not, it's hard to guess with
Okay.
people, yeah, like our girls' third and fourth went from 2 teams to 4. But our boys' 7th and 8th went from 4 teams to 2, so it's just, it's hit or miss, kids are involved in so much,
Yeah.
you know, we're happy to get,
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
higher,
great,
but-
yeah,
you know, it's.
I just was curious.
Yeah, and there's still teams that have openings, so we're still taking people if they wanna come in, and coaches know that if they have an opening on the team, they wanna recruit someone, then we'll put them on there, but haven't gotten a lot of additional kids since the draft.
Okay, well, thank you.
see, it just, and that 187 does not include the new K through second, or does
No.
it? Yeah,
That's not the,
so we added the K through second, and I can only tell you because my daughter lives out of town, so for the non-resident, she wanted to say that it's on Brady, which was done. She was the last person to fill the wait list. Both sessions were filled in 20 each session, 20 each, that's 40 kids
Okay.
coming in kindergarten, that was over before, so. Kudos to you, and and the person
that came.
do it,
forward to-
it's one of the moms, college player, so that's great.
We had the program, but then COVID actually
Filled it,
Yeah, and then I lost my person because he didn't want to do it. And started getting back, so. Again, it's hard, we advertise, but we don't get people that want to do it, so she's involved with, I think, soccer. So, yeah.
And just a couple other things, I brought my grandkids to the Theater Guild Frozen program that they had last Sunday. It was really excellent, they did a superb job, but the program has a nice, you know, in association with Parks and Recreation Department, they did this all with. They gave a big shout out, were you there?
Oh, yeah, I was. there.
I looked for you, because they looked
I was
over
there.
in one area.
Yeah,
They gave a
I
very
was
big
actually
shout out.
sitting in the same row as her husband, so she.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. At the end of the program, to Debbie, for the assistance that she's provided, the rooms, all that to help. And, I mean, everybody clapped. I mean, it was really nice to see, so thank you for doing that. And,
Yeah, and they've been great when they've been,
Yeah.
we have the space for them, so
yeah,
it's worked
yeah,
out really well.
use it. Yeah, so that was very good. And I did also, during the last month, I said, Jenna an email. And should have copied Deb and Ally, but I don't know if you've looked on Facebook, but they're getting more creative in presenting the programs that they're offering. At least that's my take. If you look at the way it was presented, it really was welcoming and it kind of had a fun play with it a little bit. Like, I just loved it. And so, you know, I passed that on to Jen. I passed that on to you. You came back, yeah, because you passed on to Ally. She told me,
Oh.
yeah. I think Debbie as well, but anyway, I think more of that, that was great. And obviously you've gotten people signed up for it, so. Anyway, just wanted to say thanks. All right, any other questions, comments from Debbie?
I attended the tinsel run. It was awesome. Great. There was like a line to register like the whole time. Like it was just constant people coming, and the amount of raffle prizes that they gave out were amazing. It was like $100 Amazon card, you know, like it was great. Ally did an awesome job getting all those.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a really great turnout.
She's on.
Right? Okay,
That's a tough
hello,
one.
Steve.
That's a tough one to follow.
Yeah.
You guys got my monthly, you've got the monthly report, just wrapping a bunch of projects and things that had lingered into November, but besides that, our kind of biggest thing is assisting, social services, food distribution at Pistol Creek, which takes up a ton of our time and a ton of resources. That's pretty much it for Parks and Grounds.
All good, all right, okay.
Always to
Personal
us.
field,
Personal field updated, we're still working with the contractors, they came out last week, they fixed the drain, they'll be back out tomorrow to add some sod. We're still waiting for some reports from the surveyor, we're still waiting for them to install some tracer tape, things like that, but it's still working.
It will be for a while, but I'm keeping it on the agenda just because it's working.
yeah.
Are they gonna put drainage pipes on the east side of the field?
Something we're in talks of.
Any questions, Steve? Anything else?
Motion adjourned.
You gotta make a motion. Well, hold on a second. So Donnie's leaving? Yeah.
And Joe,
We have next
and Joe,
One more meeting?
and Joe.
And Joe?
and Joe.
We're going to.
My son's believable. The best of bunch of mine.
Okay, I'll just.
Have you gotten any applications?
We have received one. I have received one that I forwarded to the town clerk's office. They get turned into the town clerk's office. They don't get turned into me. The contact that you had sent came to me. I gave him the application. I said, if you want, just send it to me and I'll turn it in for you. As of now, I believe that's the only application that has come in, but they also haven't, we don't have a vacancy right now. So, I mean, yeah, it's whatever, it's word of mouth right now. After the January meeting, Kate usually puts a list together of where all the vacancies are and all the boards and commissions that we post. So my hope is after that's posted, people might have an interest.
And you gotta replace it with a like registered?
Yeah, I looked it up if you guys are will, I mean, it's public information. One of you is unaffiliated and I think one of you is a Republican. Democrat? Okay, sorry. I know, yeah. So the first one filled will have to be a
That's one reason
Democrat.
why I'm leaving.
So the first position that they fill will have to be a Democrat to replace Don. And then the second one could be Dem, Republican, or unaffiliated. So right now, the one file we have, I believe, is a Republican.
Can he switch
Can he switch?
to unaffiliated? That,
It doesn't matter because
Matter.
if the first position filled will have to be the Democrat position.
So, to that point, I would put word out to people that you know. You have bring Christine in, which is great, and,
I'm kind of bad, but.
yeah, so
Got a guy.
we're not officially recruiting, but.
We as
word
staff
out to
cannot
people,
really.
Groups. You know, it's important that we have people that understand Parks and Rec and, you know, or have been involved in
Or
some
that
way.
want to learn. I don't think. I think someone coming with a fresh set of eyes might be good as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Lucas was a finance person, but had an interest in joining, and
Right.
he's probably learned a plethora, but he wasn't very familiar with Parks and Rec when he started, so.
Right,
That was a step one.
and there's so much interaction, obviously, they can provide some assistance and help, so. Anyway, talking about. Please. Yep, okay. Any other, questions, all right? Vote to adjourn?
Yeah, I just.
No, you made the motion, you second?
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Cupcakes for your kids.
Allie, you're getting cupcakes.
Have your kid.
Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Back at work.